Hi, welcome back. Let me ask you, have you ever made a prayer asking God for more problems? Yes, asking God for more problems. God, give me more problems. I'll be honest with you, I have never ever made that prayer. And maybe there's a chance that you made that prayer. There's some people who might make that prayer. That's why certain memes get even funnier.
I don't want peace. I want problems always.
But seriously, who asked for more problems? Who asked for more trouble? In fact, our prayers are, God, this is my situation. Remove that from my life. Or, God, that person that I love is going through this situation. Remove that from their lives. Today we're going to look at a story of a man who prayed often. He prayed. He soaked himself in prayer. Everything about his life was prayer. And this man was David. And it came to the point where even his prayers he recorded or was recorded for him. And he makes a very interesting prayer, a prayer of gratitude and a prayer of praising God. Yet the fact that it was about gratitude and praising God doesn't make it unique. The fact that makes it unique is that he looks back and sees how God led him in his life. And then he pronounces this in 2 Samuel 22:34. That doesn't mean that David didn't ask in his life, God, please remove this situation from my life. Of course he did. And you know what? It's fine. If you make those type of prayers or if I make those type of prayers, it's fine. Because God steps in, God intervenes, God cares. Yet at the same time, God in his infinite wisdom, he knows the end from the beginning and he is in control. But sometimes if we're going through a moment of difficulty, it's hard to remember that, or just quite frankly, it's hard to believe that sometimes, even though we hate to admit it. So this is difficult in moments of deep challenges, but David's life was a life filled with challenge after challenge. David was anointed by the prophet Samuel to be the next king of Israel, as Saul had disobeyed God's commands and therefore he lost favor. At the time, Saul was still the reigning king, and David initially served in Saul's court by playing the harp to soothe the king's troubled spirit. However, David's popularity and military successes, particularly after he defeated the giant Goliath, sparkled Saul's jealousy and fear. Saul became jealous and decides that he's going to solve his insecurity by killing David. And so Saul becomes jealous and he decides that he's going to take matters in his own hands, and he relentlessly pursues David. He persecutes David in order to end his life. And this is a major part in David's life. This was a brutal part. This was very difficult, obviously. And not just the fact that armies were looking for him, but the fact that this lasted maybe about 10 to 15 years. Yet David couldn't go through this unless he heavily relied on God. There's no doubt about that. Well, time passes, Saul dies, and David then becomes king. The fact that Saul was dead did not mean, though, that David now had no problems. His life was just filled with many challenges. So here's the part that we want to highlight. David becomes king, and he reigns for about 40 years. And at the end, kind of almost at the end of his life, he makes this prayer, which is recorded in 2 Samuel chapter 22, where it seems like he's reflecting on how God led him through the past and delivered him from his enemies, particularly as well, delivering him from Saul. And he makes a very interesting prayer in verse 34. He makes my feet like the feet of the deer. He causes me to stand on the heights. Now this can be easy to overlook. It might seem poetic. It might seem like a beautiful analogy, but in this case here, there's something deeper to it. And so we're gonna dive into that right now. The word for deer in Hebrew is ayala, and I hope I'm mentioning that correctly. And this is known as the Palestinian mountain gazelle. This animal has adapted to living in dry and arid places and actually spends most of their lives not in flat areas, but at the top of mountains and hills. This species of gazelles are known for their ability to traverse rocky and dangerous terrain without stumbling. So this animal is well suited to endure and to go through arid regions, semi-arid regions. Its hooves are adapted for gripping rocky surfaces, and its strong muscular legs provide the power needed to navigate steep slopes and rocky hillsides, you name it. And understanding this, I think it helps us see a clearer picture of why David would make this prayer. David is praising God as he looks back in his life and how God led him. He's not saying, God, you just magically stop Saul from persecuting me. But instead, what you did is you gave me the right feet so that I can go through that harsh terrain. And I think this is a beautiful reflection in our lives, because sometimes we can often also pray, God, I'm going through this situation. I need for you to almost magically, just kind of rubbing a lamp type thing, remove this problem from my life. Yet, what if we made the prayer, God, how about you give me the right feet to go through this challenge that I have in my life? And you know what? It's a scary prayer. It's almost like saying, God, just give me more problems. It almost sounds like that. But the desert deer, get this, it doesn't survive, it thrives in this rocky terrain. So instead of fearing challenges, embrace them as opportunity for God to shape and strengthen your character. Friend, the path isn't always certain. Just like life is very uncertain. This is about a deeper trust in God. This is about having the faith that even if things don't go the way you expect it to, even the way God didn't answer the prayers in the way that you hoped for, God is going to guide you. God is going to give you what you need to get through this situation. And as the prophet Habakkuk wrote, though the fig trees does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crops fail and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, meaning if nothing goes the way I wanted, if nothing goes the way I prayed for, if God doesn't answer in the way that I wanted, I will be joyful in God, my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength, and He makes my feet, again, like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on heights. And I also believe that this is a promise. I believe that God will enable you to be able to stand on new heights. And you'll be able to look back and say, God, you have led me to reach new heights. I believe that God will guide your life. And as you're at the top, as you look back and you see how God has led you, then you'll be able to tell the other side of the story.